The Alpha King was dying. Harlan Davis lay on the cold stone floor of the throne room, his powerful body racked with silver poisoning, his skin burning with fever that no healer could break. 1,000 had tried. 1,000 had failed. The greatest healers from every territory had knelt beside him, poured their power into his failing body, and walked away, shaking their heads. The poison was too deep, too old, too deadly. The king had maybe hours left. Then Cheryl Darnell was dragged into the throne room in chains. She was nothing, a rejected Omega who'd been cast out of her pack for being too weak, too broken, too worthless to deserve a place among them. Her own mate had looked at her with disgust and severed their bond in front of the entire pack, leaving her with scars that went deeper than flesh. She'd been surviving in the shadows of the capital, doing whatever work no one else would touch, invisible and forgotten. Until the king's beta, desperate and half-mad with grief, remembered an old legend, that sometimes the most powerful healing came not from strength, but from those who'd survived the unsurvivable, from those who knew what it meant to die inside and choose to keep breathing anyway. Cheryl stumbled as the guards released her, falling to her knees beside the Alpha King's massive form. Up close, he was even more devastating, all raw power and brutal beauty, even as death crept through his veins. His dark skin gleamed with sweat, his chest rising and falling in shallow, pained breaths. The assembled pack watched from the shadows, their faces carved with hopelessness. "Heal him," the beta commanded, "or you'll die beside him." Cheryl's hand shook as she placed them on Harlan's burning chest. She had no training, no special gifts. She was just a rejected Omega who'd learned to survive by stitching her own wounds back together over and over again. But the moment her skin touched his, something ignited. The mate bond, impossible, forbidden, absolutely undeniable, slammed into place between them with such force it drove the breath from her lungs. Harlan's eyes snapped open, glowing gold with his wolf's desperation. He saw her, really saw her. And in that instant, through the haze of silver poison and approaching death, he knew. This broken, trembling Omega was his fated mate, the one the moon goddess had chosen for him. And she was terrified. "Please," Cheryl whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to save you." "Then learn," Harlan rasped, his hand covering hers. "Because I'm not dying before I know your name." The bond between them pulsed, golden and new and absolutely terrifying. Cheryl could feel everything, his pain, his fear, his rage at the betrayal that had put this poison in his system. But underneath it all was something else, a loneliness that matched her own, a desperate, aching need to be seen as more than a title or a rank or a broken thing. She closed her eyes and let her power flow. Not healing magic, she didn't have that, but something deeper, something that came from surviving rejection and betrayal and still choosing to believe life was worth fighting for. She poured every ounce of stubborn resilience into him, every scar she'd earned staying alive when it would have been easier to give up. Every morning she'd forced herself out of bed, despite the crushing weight of unworthiness. And slowly, impossibly, Harlan's breathing steadied. The silver tracks faded from his veins. The fever broke. Colour returned to his lips. The assembled pack gasped as their king's eyes cleared, as strength flooded back into his powerful body. Cheryl collapsed forward, exhausted, and Harlan caught her before she could hit the stone floor. "Your name," he demanded softly, cradling her against his chest. "Tell me your name." "Cheryl?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Cheryl Darnell. Nobody, nothing. I don't understand." "You're my mate." The words rang through the throne room like a declaration of war. My fated mate, chosen by the moon goddess herself. The shock was absolute. An Alpha King bonded to a rejected Omega? It was unheard of. Impossible. Against every tradition and hierarchy that governed pack life, the nobles would rebel. The council would never accept it. But Harlan didn't care. He'd been dying, and this trembling woman in his arms had dragged him back from death's door through sheer force of will. If this story is already pulling at your heart, if you need to know what happens when a rejected Omega becomes an Alpha King salvation, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications, because what comes next will shatter everything you think you know about fated bonds and second chances. Harlan carried Cheryl to his private chambers over the protests of his advisors, ignoring their scandalized whispers. He laid her gently on his massive bed and knelt beside her, studying the woman who'd saved his life. She was beautiful in an understated way. Dark hair, warm brown skin, eyes that held depths of pain no one her age should carry. And she was shaking. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "No one will hurt you. I swear it." "You can't mean it." Cheryl sat up, wrapping her arms around herself. "The bond, it's a mistake. I'm broken, Your Majesty. My own mate rejected me, said I was too weak, too damaged, that I'd never be worthy of..." "He was a fool." Harlan's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "And he's about to learn what happens to wolves who throw away precious things." "You don't understand. I can't shift properly. I'm small and weak, and I have nothing to offer you. When your council finds out, when the pack learns their king is bonded to someone like me..." "Someone like you?" Harlan moved closer, his amber eyes intense. "Someone who walked into a room where 1,000 powerful healers had failed and succeeded where they couldn't. Someone who saved the Alpha King's life through sheer courage and will. That's who you are, Cheryl, not whatever lies your former pack told you. But I didn't do anything. I don't have healing powers. You have something better. You have survival." He took her hand gently. "Do you know what silver poisoning does? It attacks from the inside, turns your own strength against you. Every healer who tried to cure me used their power to fight it. But power just fed the poison. What I needed was someone who understood how to endure, how to outlast the darkness. And you knew, didn't you? Because you've been doing it your whole life." Cheryl's breath caught. No one had ever described her survival with strength before. It had always been weakness. Her inability to just give up and die properly like she was supposed to. "Who poisoned you?" she asked quietly. Harlan's expression darkened. "My brother, Darius. He wanted the throne, wanted the power. So he slipped silver into my food over months, building it up slowly so no one would notice until it was too late." His jaw clenched. He's still out there, waiting to finish what he started. And now that you've healed me, you've made yourself his target too. "Me?" Cheryl laughed bitterly. "I'm nobody. Why would he care about..." "Because you're my mate, and because without you, I'd be dead right now." Harlan stood pacing like a caged wolf. "Darius planned this perfectly. Waited until I was too weak to fight back. He has supporters in the council, wolves who'd rather see him on the throne than accept that a rejected Omega saved their king's life. They'll come for you, Cheryl. They'll try to break our bond, discredit you, maybe even kill you to finish what the poison started." Fear flickered through Cheryl, but something else rose up too. Something she thought her former pack had beaten out of her. Defiance. "Then what do we do?" "We?" Harlan stopped pacing, hope lighting his features. "You're not running?" "Where would I run to?" She met his eyes steadily. I've been surviving on scraps and sleeping in alleys for 6 months. At least here I have a purpose, even if it's just making your brother angry." Harlan's laugh was startled and genuine. "You're extraordinary, you know that?" "I'm practical." Cheryl stood steadier now. "If I'm your mate, if the bond is real, then we're stronger together than apart, right? That's how fated bonds work?" "Yes. The bond makes us stronger, faster, more powerful when we're together. It's why Darius tried to kill me before I found you. He knew a bonded Alpha King would be nearly impossible to defeat. Then we complete the bond." The words came out before Cheryl could second-guess them. "We mark each other, make it official, show the pack that you're healed and protected, take away his advantage." Harlan moved to her in 3 strides, his hands framing her face. "Cheryl, do you understand what you're offering? A mark is permanent, forever. And completing a bond with me means accepting everything that comes with it. The danger, the politics, the enemies who'll see you as a threat. Your life will never be simple or safe again." "My life has never been safe." She leaned into his touch, drawing strength from his solid presence. "And I'd rather be in danger with you than invisible and alone. At least this way, I'm fighting for something, for someone who sees me as more than broken." The vulnerability in her voice undid him. Harlan pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I see you, Cheryl, and what I see is a survivor, a fighter, a woman strong enough to drag a king back from death's door. If you'll have me, if you'll accept this bond, I swear I'll spend every day proving you're worthy of far more than you've ever been given." Cheryl's answer was to tilt her head, baring her throat in trust. "Then, mark me, Alpha King. Make me yours before your brother can tear us apart." Harlan's control shattered. His canines extended as he lowered his mouth to the curve where her neck met her shoulder, the most vulnerable place on her body. "This will hurt," he warned. "I know. Do it anyway." The bite was sharp and claiming, sending electricity through every nerve. Cheryl gasped, her hands fisting in Harlan's shirt as the bond completed with explosive force. Golden light flared around them, visible even in the candlelit chamber. The mark appeared on her skin, intricate and beautiful, marking her as the Alpha King's mate for all to see. Then it was her turn. Harlan tilted his head, offering his throat to her, a gesture of ultimate trust from an Alpha to anyone, let alone a rejected Omega. Cheryl's canines lengthened, and she bit down, claiming him as thoroughly as he'd claimed her. The bond solidified like a living thing between them, tying their hearts and souls together with threads of fate and choice. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard, the mate bond humming with completion. Cheryl could feel Harlan's emotions now, his fierce protectiveness, his awe at her courage, his determination to keep her safe. And he could feel hers, her fear and hope tangled together, her cautious trust, her desperate need to believe this was real. "It's real," Harlan murmured, answering her unspoken question. "You're mine now, Cheryl, and I'm yours. Nothing Darius does can break that." Before Cheryl could respond, the chamber door exploded inward. Wolves poured in, at least 20 of them, led by a man who looked disturbingly like Harlan, but with cruelty etched into every line of his face. Darius. "How touching," the would-be usurper sneered. "The dying king found himself a pathetic Omega to cling to in his final hours. Tell me, brother, did she heal you? Or did she just make you comfortable as you faded?" Harlan stepped in front of Cheryl, his presence suddenly massive and terrifying. The power radiating from him made even his brother's wolves hesitate. "I'm not dying, Darius. Thanks to my mate, your poison failed. And now you're going to answer for treason." "Your mate?" Darius laughed cruelly. That broken thing. The pack will never accept a rejected Omega as their Luna. The council is already calling for her execution. The council doesn't command me. Harlan's voice dropped to a lethal purr. I'm the Alpha King, and anyone who threatens my mate threatens me directly. So choose carefully, brother. Stand down now, and I'll exile you. Push this further, and I'll do what I should have done when I first learned you were poisoning me. You won't kill me. You're too weak, too noble, too... Harlan moved like lightning, his hand closing around Darius's throat and lifting him off the ground. I was weak, dying, but my mate healed me, Darius. And the bond makes me stronger than you've ever been. So let me make this very clear. You have until sunrise to leave my territory. Take your supporters with you. If I ever see you again, I'll let my wolf tear you apart. He released Darius, who crumpled to the ground, gasping. The other wolves backed away, recognizing the power of a completed mate bond, seeing their would-be leader humiliated. One by one, they bowed to Harlan, submitting to his authority. Right before we reach the moment that changes everything, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button. Because Cheryl and Harlan's story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens when a rejected Omega becomes the most powerful Luna in the territories. Darius fled with his supporters, leaving the throne room in chaos. Over the next hours, challenges came from every corner, nobles who refused to accept Cheryl, traditionalists who demanded Harlan reject the bond, enemies who saw the new Luna as a weakness to exploit. But Harlan stood firm, and more surprisingly, so did Cheryl. She'd spent her entire life being told she was worthless. But standing beside the Alpha King, feeling his absolute faith in her through the bond, something shifted. She stopped apologizing for existing, stopped making herself small and invisible. When a particularly pompous council member suggested she step aside for the good of the pack, Cheryl looked him dead in the eye and said, I saved your king's life. What have you done lately? The room went silent. Then Harlan's beta started laughing, and soon half the court joined in. The nobleman sputtered and retreated, and Cheryl felt something warm bloom in her chest. Pride. For the first time in her life, she felt proud of who she was. But the real test came 3 days later, when wolves from Cheryl's former pack arrived, demanding an audience. Her former mate Garrett stood at the front, his expression twisted with rage and greed. That Omega belongs to us, he declared. She's pack property, and we're here to reclaim her. Cheryl felt Harlan's fury through the bond, felt him preparing to tear Garrett apart, but she placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. Let me handle this. She stepped forward, facing the wolves, who'd thrown her away like garbage. I belong to no one but myself. You rejected me, Garrett. You severed our bond and cast me out. You have no claim on me. You are too weak to deserve our pack, Garrett spat. But now that you've tricked your way into the Alpha King's bed, suddenly you think you're worth something. No. Cheryl's voice was steel. I've always been worth something. You were just too blind and cruel to see it. I survived your rejection, survived being homeless and alone. And when the greatest healers in the territories couldn't save the Alpha King, I did. Not because I'm weak, Garrett, because I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for. She let her mark show, the intricate pattern that declared her the Alpha King's fated mate. The moon goddess chose me for him, not you, not your pack, me. So take your worthless opinion and get out of my kingdom before my mate decides to show you what happens to wolves who threaten what's his. Garrett's wolf tried to surface, tried to challenge her, but Harlan's presence behind her was overwhelming. The Alpha King's power rolled over the former pack like a physical force, making them whimper and bow. They had no choice but to retreat, their tails between their legs, while Cheryl stood tall and unafraid. When they were gone, Harlan pulled her into his arms. "You're magnificent." "I'm angry." Cheryl's voice shook. "I spent years believing their lies, thinking I deserved the rejection, the pain, the loneliness, but I didn't. I never did." "No, you didn't." Harlan tilted her chin up gently. "And now you never have to feel that way again. You're my Luna, Cheryl, my queen, my mate, and anyone who says otherwise answers to me." The final challenge came from within. A faction of nobles, led by an ancient pack leader named Silas, demanded a trial. They claimed Cheryl had used dark magic to seduce the king, that the bond was false, that she was unworthy of her position. It was politics at its ugliest, wolves clinging to tradition and hierarchy rather than accepting that sometimes fate chose unexpected vessels for greatness. The trial was set in the great arena, with the entire pack assembled to witness. Cheryl stood in the centre, feeling small and exposed, while Silas outlined his accusations. But then Harlan stepped forward, and his voice carried absolute authority. "You want proof of the bond? Here it is." He shifted partially, his eyes glowing gold, his power radiating outward. "I was dying. Silver poisoning that no healer could cure. Then Cheryl touched me, and the mate bond formed. She didn't seduce me. The moon goddess chose her for me, and she saved my life through sheer courage and will." He looked at Cheryl, love and pride evident in every line of his body. "You want to question her worth? Then question mine. Because if she's unworthy, so am I for accepting a bond the goddess herself created. And if you truly believe that, then challenge me for the throne. See how that works out." Silence. Not a single wolf dared challenge the Alpha King, especially not one strengthened by a completed mate bond. Silas tried to argue, but even his supporters were backing away, recognizing defeat. Finally, one by one, the assembled pack began to bow, not to Harlan, to Cheryl, accepting her as their Luna, acknowledging that sometimes strength came in unexpected forms. Tears streamed down Cheryl's face as she felt the pack bond settle into place, linking her to every wolf in the kingdom. She was no longer rejected, no longer alone. She was Luna, accepted and honoured, with a mate who saw her worth even when she couldn't see it herself. That night, standing on the balcony overlooking the kingdom, Harlan wrapped his arms around her from behind. "No regrets?" "Terrified," Cheryl admitted, "but no regrets. You?" "Not a single one." He kissed her temple. "You saved me, Cheryl, not just from the poison, from the loneliness, from believing that power was more important than connection. You taught me that sometimes the strongest wolves are the ones who survive what should have broken them." Cheryl turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd become her everything. "1,000 healers gave up on you. I'm glad I was too stubborn to do the same. And I'm glad fate brought you to me." Harlan's smile was tender. "Though I suspect the moon goddess knew exactly what she was doing. She knew I needed someone who understood suffering, who'd choose courage over comfort, who'd fight for what mattered even when the world said it was impossible. She gave you a rejected Omega. She gave me everything." He kissed her softly, the bond humming with contentment between them. "She gave me you." And standing there in the moonlight, with her mate's arms around her and her pack's acceptance warming her heart, Cheryl finally understood. She wasn't broken. She'd never been broken. She'd been forged through rejection and pain and survival into exactly what the Alpha King needed. What she needed: a second chance, a fated bond, a love that saw past weakness to the warrior underneath. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more challenges, more enemies, more wolves who questioned whether a rejected Omega deserved to be Lunar. But Cheryl was done apologizing for existing, done making herself small. She was the Alpha King's mate, chosen by fate and sealed by choice, and anyone who doubted her would learn the hard way that the most dangerous wolves were the ones who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. If Cheryl's journey from rejected Omega to powerful Lunar touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the healing power of fated bonds, please subscribe to Lunar Mate Story. I have so many more tales of wolves who find strength in unexpected places and love in the darkest moments. Hit that subscribe button and join our pack. Until next time, may you always remember that your worth isn't determined by those who rejected you, but by those who see your true value.